The morning sun filtered through the pristine white curtains of their suburban Dallas home as Claire Richardson applied her daily makeup routine with practiced precision. At 34, she had perfected the art of looking effortlessly put together: nude eyeshadow, subtle mascara, and a soft pink lipstick that complemented her carefully maintained blonde highlights. Her reflection in the vanity mirror showed exactly what she'd cultivated for the past 12 years of marriage: the picture of respectability. "You look beautiful, as always," David said from behind her, adjusting his tie in the full-length mirror. At 36, her husband still carried himself with the confidence that had first attracted her during their college years at SMU. He was a successful insurance executive now, and they'd built what everyone considered an enviable life in their gated community of Plano. Claire smiled at his reflection. "Thank you, honey. Don't forget, we have dinner with the Hendersons tonight. I made reservations at that new steakhouse downtown." "Of course. Wouldn't miss it." David kissed her cheek, careful not to disturb her makeup. "I might be a little late, getting home from work. We're closing the Peterson account today, and you know how those things go." As he left for work, Claire began her own morning routine, dropping their 10-year-old son Michael at his private school, stopping by the dry cleaners, and heading to her part-time job at an upscale boutique in Legacy West. It was the kind of schedule that looked perfect from the outside: organized, predictable, successful. At the boutique, Claire worked alongside her best friend and business partner, Amanda Chen, who had known her since their sorority days. Amanda was everything Claire wasn't: bold, outspoken, and completely unconcerned with what others thought of her fashion choices. Today she wore a flowing bohemian dress with statement jewelry that most women in their conservative suburb would consider too much. "You're quiet today," Amanda observed as they arranged the new fall collection. "Everything okay?" Claire hesitated, then shook her head. "Just tired, I guess. David's been working late a lot recently. The insurance business is demanding, especially with the economy and everything." "When was the last time you two went out?" "Just the two of you." Claire had to think about it. "We go out with friends all the time. The Hendersons, the Kowalskis, your book club dinners. That's not what I asked," Amanda said gently. "When was the last time you and David had a real conversation about something other than Michael's schedule, or the mortgage, or what's happening with your social calendar?" The question stuck with Claire throughout the day. When had she and David stopped talking about dreams, hopes, fears? When had their conversations become purely transactional: schedules to coordinate, bills to discuss, social obligations to fulfill? That evening, she found herself paying closer attention during dinner with the Hendersons. Tom and Janet Henderson were their closest couple friends, successful like them, with children the same age as Michael. They lived 2 streets over in an identical house with identical landscaping and identical aspirations. "Did you see that new family that moved into the Martinelli place?" Janet asked over her salmon. "The woman wears the most interesting clothes, very colorful, very bold." "I saw her at the grocery store," Claire replied. "She seemed nice enough." "Oh, I'm sure she's lovely," Janet continued. "But you have to wonder about someone who dresses like that in a neighborhood like ours. I mean, look at the way she dresses. It's just so attention-seeking." David nodded absently, checking his phone for the 3rd time during dinner. Claire noticed but didn't comment. He'd been distracted lately, claiming work stress, but there was something different about his distraction. Something that felt more personal than professional. "David, honey, you're a million miles away," Janet teased. "Must be a big case." "Sorry," David said, putting his phone away. "Just trying to close this account. You know how it is." But Claire didn't know how it was anymore. She realized she'd stopped asking about his work months ago, and he'd stopped volunteering information about his days. Their dinner conversations had become as choreographed as their social interactions: pleasant, surface level, and completely devoid of genuine connection. After dinner, during the drive home through their manicured neighborhood, Claire found herself studying her husband's profile in the dashboard light. When had the easy intimacy of their early marriage been replaced by this polite coexistence? When had they become roommates who happened to share a mortgage and a child? "David," she said as they pulled into their driveway, "are you happy?" The question seemed to surprise him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you happy with us, with our life, with everything we've built?" He was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, Claire felt something shift. It was subtle, like a crack appearing in a perfect facade, but she sensed it with the intuition that comes from 12 years of marriage. Of course I'm happy, he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. We have everything we ever wanted, don't we? The house, the careers, Michael's doing well in school. What more could we want? It was exactly the right answer, but it felt completely wrong. As they walked into their beautifully decorated home, a showcase of good taste and financial success, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere along the way, they'd built a life that looked perfect but felt hollow. That night, as David fell asleep beside her, Claire stared at the ceiling and wondered when she'd stopped recognizing the man she'd married. He was still handsome, still successful, still the kind of husband that other women envied her for having, but lying there in their king-sized bed, in their perfect master bedroom, she felt more alone than she had in years. She thought about Amanda's question. When was the last time she and David had talked about something that mattered, really mattered? She couldn't remember, and that realization was more frightening than any argument they might have had. 3 weeks later, Claire's carefully constructed world began to unravel in the most unexpected way. It started with a simple text message that appeared on David's phone while he was in the shower. Claire wasn't in the habit of checking his phone. Trust had never been an issue in their marriage, but the device was buzzing insistently on the nightstand, and she was concerned it might be an emergency call from Michael's school. The message preview on the lock screen read, "Thank you for yesterday. It meant everything to me." Claire stared at the message, her mind immediately racing. Who was Elle? Yesterday had been Saturday, and David had told her he was playing golf with Tom Henderson, but Tom's wife Janet had mentioned at their book club meeting that Tom had been home all day helping with their kitchen renovation. When David emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel and humming absently, Claire held up his phone. "You got a text message." It seemed urgent, so I looked. She watched his face carefully as he read the message, looking for any sign of guilt or panic. Instead, she saw something worse, resignation, as if he'd been expecting this moment for a long time. "Claire, we need to talk." The words every spouse dreads hearing. Claire felt her stomach drop as David sat on the edge of their bed, his phone still in his hand. "Who is Elle?" she asked, surprised by how calm her voice sounded. "Her name is Luna," David said quietly. "Luna Vasquez. She's a client who became something more." Luna, even the name was exotic, different from the Claires and Janets and Amandas of their social circle. Claire found herself thinking about the new neighbor Janet had mentioned, the one who dressed so boldly, so colorfully, the one they'd all judged for being different. "How long?" Claire asked, still maintaining that strange, artificial calm. "For months," David admitted. "Maybe 5. I didn't plan for this to happen, Claire. I really didn't." 5 months. While Claire had been worrying about their social calendar and Michael's soccer schedule and whether their kitchen renovation was on track, her husband had been building an entirely different life with someone named Luna. "Tell me about her," Claire said, and this time her voice cracked slightly. David looked surprised by the request. "I don't think." "Tell me about her," Claire repeated, more firmly this time. "I need to know." David was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, there was something in his voice Claire hadn't heard in years, genuine emotion. "She's an artist, a painter. She moved here from Austin 6 months ago after her divorce. She's different from anyone I've ever known. She sees the world differently, approaches life differently. She's not concerned with what other people think or expect. She just lives." Claire felt a strange mix of jealousy and curiosity. Is she the woman who moved into the Martinelli place? The one Janet was talking about? David nodded, and Claire suddenly understood. While she and her friends had been judging this woman for her bold fashion choices and unconventional style, David had been falling in love with her. "What does she look like?" Claire asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "She's beautiful," David said honestly, "but not in the way you might expect. She's got dark hair that she wears long and natural. She dresses in colors and patterns that most people around here would think are too much. She wears jewelry that she makes herself. She's authentic." The word hit Claire like a slap. Authentic. Was that what she'd lost somewhere along the way? In her quest to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect neighbor, had she become something artificial? "Do you love her?" Claire asked, though she already knew the answer from the way David's face had changed when he talked about Luna. "Yes," he said simply, "I do." Claire stood up from the bed and walked to their bedroom window, looking out at their perfectly manicured lawn and the identical houses that stretched in neat rows down their streets. Everything looked exactly the same as it had an hour ago. but her entire world had shifted. I should hate her, Claire said quietly. I should hate both of you, Claire, but I don't, she continued, surprising herself. I'm angry, yes, I'm hurt, but mostly, I'm confused. I look at our life, at everything we've built, and I can't understand how we got so far away from each other. She turned back to face her husband, really looking at him for the first time in months. He looked tired, conflicted, but also more alive than she'd seen him in years. What happens now? She asked. I don't know, David admitted. I never wanted to hurt you, Claire. I never wanted to hurt Michael, but I can't keep pretending that what we have is enough anymore. Claire nodded slowly, understanding more than she wanted to, because if she was being honest with herself, she'd been pretending that their comfortable routine was the same thing as happiness, pretending that their social success was the same thing as fulfillment, pretending that the polite stranger she'd been living with was still the man she'd fallen in love with in college. I need some time to think, she said, finally. Can you stay somewhere else for a few days? David nodded. I'll go to Tom's place. What will we tell Michael? That we're working through some things, Claire said. Which is the truth. As David packed a bag, Claire found herself thinking about Luna Vasquez, the woman who had somehow managed to do what 12 years of marriage couldn't. She'd made David feel authentic again, made him remember who he was beyond the roles of husband, father, and successful businessman. And as painful as it was to admit, Claire envied her for that.